let's talk about Obi-Wan episode 5. So just to give a bit of a recap, and my spoiler review of episodes 1 through 4 is up on the channel in the last podcast episode. I have been underwhelmed with the series. I think one of the things I said after the first 2 episodes was that, I'm excited for the series because it seems to know what it wants, right? It seems to know from beginning to end where it wants to go. And now I'm just not so sure about that after episode 4 and a bit of episode 2. And what I find interesting about this series is that it feels like you cut out episode 4 entirely and you cut out most of episode 2, and you have a tremendous first 3 episodes of a series that is building up to so you have the first confrontation with Obi-Wan at the end of Act 1 against Vader, and he is just overwhelmed. He's overmatched. And then you're building up to, what is now going to be the finale confrontation in episode 6, but what could have been sort of an episode 4 confrontation with Vader, which is gonna be epic and cool. And you can kind of see Obi-Wan kind of gaining his powers back. And then you have another 3 episodes to build up towards really the bigger confrontation. Because I feel like, this epic confrontation that they've been building up towards, and that's going to happen at the end of episode 6, obviously, it doesn't feel as satisfying because it doesn't feel like we've been building up to it. All the stuff with Vader, I love. Everything with Vader, I love. Everything with Vader, I love. I think I can say that. The problem is that he's been in about 15 to 20 minutes of maybe 2 or 3 hours of material. And that's not great, because we'll talk about Reva. I think that they did a lot of work in this episode to kind of redeem Reva. And I think I'll eventually go back and rewatch the series from beginning to end. But I'm sort of treating this series like Rebels right now. I'll move on to kind of breaking down what happens in the episode in just a second. But I just wanted to say I'm kind of feeling like how I feel about Rebels, in the sense that I really don't like Rebels as a series that much. I think that Rebels has its, ups and downs, and I think that I don't like Ezra Bridger as a character. I think he's actually really whiny, and nothing against the voice actor. People like it, I guess. I really don't. But Rebels has some incredible moments in it. The Ahsoka Vader fight in Rebels. By the way, Rebels isn't even an Ahsoka Vader show, but that happens in the show, and it's like, oh yeah, wow. Amazing. The entire Obi-Wan Maul episode. Amazing. So, to kind of say that at the end of the day, and obviously episode 6 could be amazing. I thought episode 5 was really good. I don't think it was peak. I think it's about the same as episode 3. I think episode 3 and episode 5 are just really quite good. Episode 1 is also very good. Nothing from beginning to end where I go, yeah, this is incredible. But what I think it is really is just that there are moments, within the series that I'm going to be rewatching over and over and over again. I rewatch the Ahsoka Vader clip often because it's so good. And I'm going to be rewatching the Vader Obi-Wan fight, I'm sure, at the end of episode 6, depending on how they shoot it. We'll get to how they shoot this show. It's weird how cheap it looks sometimes. But anyways, And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe was tired when I watched this. Does anyone else think that if you look at this shot, and we'll get to Hayden in just a second, you can tell, right? It's in the volume, right? Like the pillars are probably there, but the entire rest of the background, you can't see me waving at the screen, but the entire rest of the background is in the volume, right? We can tell, right? Maybe that's just me. The volume, for those of you who don't know, is the new technology that Star Wars has been using to film things, where it's really beautiful. It's an enormous screen that sort of acts as a green screen, but they have projected the background so the actors can actually see what they're acting as. It's brilliant technology. It's just that I think the volume technology needs to take another couple steps up. It's, like when CGI first really got good and stuff like that, 3D animation. Anyways, let's get into episode 5. I think episode 5 is very good and has some awesome moments. I also think that it kind of shows that, the show didn't really know what it wanted to be. Not as badly as the Book of Boba Fett, mind you. If they threw in a Mandalorian episode here, hey, here's the flashback to the Purge Mandalore, whatever, the Siege of Mandalore, it's like, oh, okay. That's weird. But yeah, it didn't do any of that. I hope it doesn't. Hayden's back. finally. I wish I could say that, this is like, oh, this is some great revelation, here. Because, I'm so excited, but it's kind of sad because, yeah, like it's episode 5 and he's in the episode for a really wonderful 5 minutes cut throughout the entire episode. And I thought his acting right off the bat, 1,000 times better. Just 1,000 times better. And you know what it is there's a line, I meant to write it down. I totally forgot what it was, but I've been thinking about this ever since I finished the episode. There's a line where they're dueling. And Hayden kind of, Anakin's fighting Obi-Wan, and he kind of like lunges at him with a swing, and he says something like, now you will lose, or like time for you to lose, or I think it's now you will lose, or something like that. And it starts like low, and it kind of escalates into a yell as he kind of swings his saber. And right there, for the first time, because like I've said in many other videos, Matt Lanter's voice is Anakin Skywalker to me. Hayden Christensen's body, physique, whatever, appearance, and Matt Lanter's voice is Anakin Skywalker to me. But for the first time, I heard Matt Lanter's voice in Hayden. And I think it's just because it was a little deeper and more emotive. But if you go back, I believe it's in the second flashback in the episode. I'll try to find a timestamp and put in the description. I probably won't remember this once I'm editing, but go back to the episode and look for it. Look for the flashback where he says something about losing to Obi-Wan, and you can hear like the merging of Matt Lanter and Hayden Christensen into one character, and I love it. And it's a perfect, like, this performance is a perfect merging of, this is still Hayden, right? Like, Hayden was Hayden in the prequels, but it's what it should have been, right? With obviously better dialogue, of course, but it's still Hayden and Ewan, and it's just great. I people have said, and I noticed this too. I'm like, oh yeah, they didn't really de-age him. Why? He looks older. It's weird. Like, Ewan kind of looks the same, I guess, but Hayden looks older, and I don't know. Whatever. Not a big deal. Anyone else can anyone else tell that this is in the volume, like, very clearly? I even think that the volume is like a curved screen like this. So, anyways, it's not a big deal, but some of the visuals, and we'll get to the way things are shot in a second. Some of the visuals are just, I don't know, a little underwhelming to me, but and then we get Vader reflecting on this, and I mean, that's great. Like, this is the stuff that this show should have been. And I'm disappointed. I'm glad they're wrapping up Reva's story. Not that I hate Reva as a character. I just think it's about, it makes sense that they're about to wrap up her character arc. Although they don't kill her, which doesn't make sense either. I don't know. She has to be in episode 6. Vader leaving her alive is something that confused me. I know a lot of people have said that already. Whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, like this and this and this is perfect. Perfect. This is what the show should have been all along. Anyways, love that. We'll talk about. Actually, we'll talk about Tala right now. I mean, this is just a nice picture of the two of them there. We'll talk about Tala. I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I don't know enough about this actress. I know she's in Game of Thrones. I didn't really care about her character. They made this really slow, dramatic death scene for her, and I just didn't care. So by the time it came, by the time it came up, I was like, oh, okay, hopefully we kind of can get past this. And I don't want to sound callous. I sound very callous right now, but I just didn't care about the character, and it's kind of disappointing because they spent like 3 minutes in slow motion on this death scene. I think the grenade thing was cool. But again, I just, I didn't really care about the character at all. So sorry, it is what it is. But, Reva, let's get out. Oh, this shot, by the way. Wow, these shots. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about, we'll talk about Reva and Vader a little bit later, but let's talk about Reva's plan, I guess. Sorry about the chair. You guys can hear the chair creaking. I was a little iffy on the performance by Moses Ingram. Again, like I said in last episode, nothing to do with anything about her or her identity. If any of you are conflating the two, please leave the channel. No racist, nothing like that. Please don't be that person. Don't be that awful person who says, terrible things about a person's race. I don't want to get into that right now. You can watch last week's episode. But I just, I wasn't a fan of her character in general. I just thought she was a little bit too over the top. And I think she still is. But I actually am getting on board with the twist sort of of her plan. Because here's the thing. We all kind of knew that she would turn on Vader at some point. I had always kind of assumed, though, that it would be something like where she goes, "Oh, I've seen the error of my ways, Obi-Wan. I want to help you now, and let's defeat Vader." And she dies because, Vader has to kill her. She probably still will die. I think Vader will kill her on Tatooine, which I don't know why you're going back to Tatooine. We'll talk about that at the end of this episode. But yeah, I think that, I was worried because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What does make a lot more sense is actually what they decided to do. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, they're going to redeem her. And they might in episode 6. I actually don't think they are. I think that this is a case of sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I think you kind of see that with her conversation with Obi-Wan. Because I think that, people were saying, like, how do you redeem her still if, she's killed these people brutally and she's hunting Jedi? It's all in an effort to confront Anakin and kill him. And I don't think that redemption is what's going to drive. It's revenge, very clearly. So I don't think she's going to be redeemed to the light side. I think she's fully made her turn to the dark side because revenge is what is driving her, but it's revenge towards another dark side user. And I think that that's really interesting. I don't think there's any redemption for this character at all. I think she knows fully what she's doing. And I think that the hatred for Obi-Wan is really actually compelling because she knew that Anakin was his Padawan. And I would be upset too at Obi-Wan. You should have done better. And that, that kind of stuff should have been really more in the previous episodes, but whatever, it's fine. It is what it is. But no, I think that her motivations are clear. So I think I have to go back to the previous episodes and rewatch them eventually, which I will, and kind of see how that plays out in her performance because I think the idea of a long con, I don't know how long of a con you were going to play, and also the way that she kind of tries to kill him is really dumb. Like, you're really going to sneak up to Vader, when in A New Hope he could sense Obi-Wan, like on the not the Death Star. No, yeah, on the Death Star, right? Yeah. It's dumb, I think, but whatever. It is what it is. But I think I'm on board more with this plan, this idea. I gotta speed through the rest of these because we got some stuff to get through. But yeah, okay. Let's talk. I mean, these two shots. These are just here because I love them. Although the ship leaving was so CGI to me, it was a little baffling. But this is a beautiful shot. This could be a screensaver right here. Love it. Yeah, like I said, the confrontation between her and Vader. I love how Vader just toys with her. He's like, I'll give you back a saber. We can fight. And she gets overwhelmed. It's amazing. Hey, they don't break canon. There you go. I don't think there was ever a doubt that they would break canon. The Grand Inquisitor is back. They don't explain why. It's fine. He has 3 stomachs. It's fine. Or 2 stomachs, I think. Yeah. No, I think that this stuff here with the Vader dueling Reva was great. Reva picking up the beacon and finding out it's on Tatooine. So for those of you who watch on Disney Plus, you see that when you open up the Obi-Wan, I'll leave it at this beautiful screensaver as I talk. You see that the poster is Vader's lightsaber and Obi-Wan on Tatooine, or at least on a sandy planet. And I'd always thought, especially after Episode 3, when he does the same thing on Dayu. Is that the planet? No, it's I don't remember the planet. But he does that same pose with lightsabers in the center frame and Obi-Wan's in the background. But it was on the other planet, and I had always just kind of assumed, oh well, Obi-Wan's on Tatooine, so they just kind of photoshopped him in. Now though, because of what Reva sees in the hologram from Bail, I have to assume that they're going back to Tatooine again. And that, look, the one thing that I thought this show couldn't do was head to Tatooine. Especially if you're going to have Leia there, and especially if you're going to have Luke there. It just doesn't make sense. Why would Vader... And they might explain something why he never returns to Tatooine. In fact, that might be the redeeming, factor of this whole thing. I just don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me why you would go back to Tatooine and why Vader would go back to Tatooine in canon, why he never went back to look for Luke. He was like, hey, Owen lives here. Like, why not look out for Owen? See what he's up to. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It could make sense. I don't want to put out judgment before I've seen the episode. So, again, here's another great shot. I think that the Obi-Wan series has been a little underwhelming, like I said. I think that they're wrapping up things really well, though. Certain things really well. They're setting up a lot of questions. Hopefully episode 6 delivers. This episode was also like 35 minutes. That's disappointing. I'm just hoping that, because I don't think the show itself has been all that great, like overall, in terms of just a single narrative, unlike a show like Miss Marvel so far or Stranger Things 4. But what I'm hoping for at the very least, and if not more, is just a great 20-minute, 15-minute duel between Vader and Obi-Wan. Kind of like, Revenge of the Sith. 15 minutes is a long time, like 10 minutes, of a duel that I can watch over and over and over again. That's all I want. That is all I want.